Our last day in MMA. How are we today? Today, I want to talk to you guys about my strength and conditioning program from a blueprint status of just a system that I use in order to get myself prepared for competition and also to have a dominating effect on the mat or striking. A lot of guys that I roll with always throw me the compliment that I have a lot of strength and that I'm able to use my power in an explosive way. So I'm going to share some tips with you guys of what I like to do in order to get me ready and prepared for combat. And so it brings me back to my football days when what we did was movements for short bursts, movements that were focused on exploding out and using fast twitch musculature. The difficult part that I found with MMA strength and conditioning training is that you're fighting the slow twitch versus fast twitch muscle systems at all times if you do this at a high level. For guys that do it in and out, say like a couple times a month, they're probably not going to have as big of an issue with that. It'll probably lean towards what their regular training pattern is or regular muscle system leans towards. So, for example, if it's a guy who likes running and he goes to Jiu-Jitsu 3 to 4 times a month, he's probably going to have slow twitch fibers predominantly anyway and a better cardiovascular fitness level anyway. If it's a guy, which is probably this example is going to be more typical, if it's a guy who likes to lift and he goes to the gym, like the dojo for jiu-jitsu 3 or 4 times a month, he's going to struggle cardiovascularly, but he's going to have that strength, that fast twitch muscle explosion, given that he's using free weights like bench press, squats, and all the things that I'm about to go into to his advantage. But if you have a guy like me in my scenario where I have to create a program that has muscular endurance aspects of it, but then also power and strength aspects of it to balance out the fatigue that I would experience from using a lot of musculature and overusing basically my slow twitch muscular system to then try to get more power output out of the fast twitch muscular system. It's really intense because you're fighting between the two all the time. All the time you're like, all right, I'm going to train for explosion. And then when you get to practice, you're like, I'm all depleted of glycogen. And now I'm trying to tap into my slow twitch reserves. It's really hard to balance. And so for me, what I usually do is this. I go in the morning really early, like 6 a.m., and I try to get a 1 hour lift in. I limit the amount of movements that I do in order to reserve some glycogen storage and reserve some of that muscular like firing sequences. So I'm not like completely depleted by the time I get back to training MMA and jiu-jitsu. So I'll get that out of the way. I'll also, again, recovery comes into a huge factor here. I'll get in a big, well-rounded breakfast with eggs, avocado. I'll try to get some carbs in there too, with some sausage, some turkey bacon, and just any sort of like maybe like a muffin top just to get those carbs, like I was saying, hash browns, a little bit of that. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? Like your diet doesn't have to be like absolutely spotless. It's just trying to get those macronutrients and those micros in as much as you can. And then doubling up with a protein shake. Once I give my body enough time to rest and recover, I then mix in an electrolyte before my next session, which sometimes I'll train during lunchtime at 12, but then other times I'll train at the 7 p.m. class. When I'm able to do that, what I'll do is then load up on the electrolytes, magnesium, potassium too, before to limit the amount of cramping that I do. And then I'll mix in high intensity cardio in the class that I'm in. So if I'm doing heavy bags, I'm not hitting it in a very light fashion. I'm going all out because that's my time to really focus on the cardio aspect of it. Going back to the lifting too in the morning, what I'll do is I'll do snatches, I'll do hang cleans, I'll do squats, like depending on the day that it is, and then I'll split it with kind of like a bodybuilding thought process. So I'll do legs one day, I'll do arms another day, and then chest is its own day, because a lot of that movement, that explosive movement of pushing and framing, comes from the chest. And so bench press is big. I'll do dumbbells and I'll do bench. Typically, I'll stick to sets of 15, 3 by 15 for reps. So 3 sets of 15 or 4. Sometimes I'll bump it up to 4. But then the amount of exercises I do, I'll limit it to about like 5, 4, maybe 5. And so I'm keeping it very focused on those days, and I'm doing very explosive movements. So keep that in mind when you're training strength for combat sports. Think about things like Turkish get-ups, right? Hand cleans are beautiful for that too, because you get that hip explosion and that heel stomp, which will get you off the mat faster if you find yourself in a compromising position, or if you're in turtle and you're trying to get out of that and you have someone heavy on top of you. That's where back squats also come in too. So all of those things mixed with a moderately heavy weight, too heavy, should get you the results that you're looking for to give you a better foundation for strength training for combat sports specifically. But when you're recovering, you need to recover 100%, so you can then switch over to doing your cardio in the latter half of that day with the heavy bags, right? Or if you're doing jiu-jitsu, like really pushing the pace with your cardio of like exerting just a little bit harder, not spazzing out, but just exerting a little bit more and moving in a way that's controlled, the way that you know how to move, and giving yourself a little bit extra of work. And you know what I'm talking about if you've rolled. I think it's super important to push yourself that way. And then when you're done, you're done. You just recover and you rinse and repeat. And just make sure that you're taking the necessary precautions to get the vitamins that you need, the macro and the micronutrients that you need to put in your body. Don't overexert and then not refuel. That's how you get injured. So I hope that helped you guys think about the key components. Really, it's explosion when you're doing strength training. Don't just like lift cables and then expect to be like Hercules the next day. You got to do compound movements with explosion, kettlebells, landmines, right? Like things like that with the bar at the end of the rack where you can just shoot that sucker in the air and come back down and twist and really get that sweat going when you're lifting. But then really taking your cardio seriously and having off times too, like the weekends. I like to do some cardio, whether it's the bike or running or even moderately jogging. All of that is super important. So hope that that answered some questions with strength and conditioning. Again, thank you guys for tuning in, and comment below if you guys have suggestions too on your strength and conditioning and training for jiu-jitsu. Thanks.